Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar titled The Value of Microsoft Surface. Before we begin, I want to cover a few housekeeping items. At the bottom of your audience console are multiple application widgets you can use. If you have any questions during the webinar, you could submit your questions in the Q&A box, and they will be answered at the end of the presentation. You can also expand your slide area by clicking on the Maximize icon in the top right of the slide viewer. If you have any technical difficulties, please click the Help widget. If you can please take a moment to fill out the survey at the end of the webinar, that would be greatly appreciated. I will now hand the deck over to your speaker. Enjoy the webinar.
Hey, thank you, and good day, everyone. My name is Robert Henry. I am from Microsoft, and I'm a National Solutions Director within our U.S. Surface business, and it is my pleasure to spend some time with you today, really to talk about the value not only of Surface as a device, but obviously we're here with Insight, and it's a great opportunity to really refresh on the partnership that we have with them. It's been long-standing for many years. And so the way that I think we're going to approach this today is, rather than just hit you with one long 30-minute conversation, really thought about the many years that I've been in Surface. For background, I've been a part of the Surface business here at Microsoft since 2013. And so, you know, we always get the question of what are kind of the silver bullets that Surface does that you don't get from other devices. And that's a really challenging kind of traditional way of thinking about it. And so what I thought I'd do today was mix things up a little bit and really put this in terms of 5 shorter, I just called them vignettes. That doesn't mean these are videos, but 5 shorter stories around Surface and kind of the value proposition as it relates to some of the things that are pretty timely in the industry today. So I put these on the screen here with you. And the other element to this to keep in mind is across each of these 5 vignettes, we're going to talk really in terms of what are the overarching themes that go horizontally across these. How does Windows 11 play into this and the relationship between Surface and Windows 11? Part of it as well is Microsoft Cloud, which many of our customers are heavily invested in. So how do our cloud technologies and our devices work together to create that better together story? We'll also talk in terms of business outcomes. At the end of the day, the most important thing is you're trying to solve some challenges. And so what can we do to try and help you achieve that? As part of that, of course, is this broad conversation around differentiated value. So these are the 5 vignettes we're going to focus on as we go through this. I will have a couple of videos sprinkled within this, but with that, let's dive in. So the first one is kind of a fun topic for me, again, having been in the business for almost 10 years now. I started with when we first acquired Perceptive Pixel, which you now know as Surface Hub, and working in that business kind of in an incubation format, and really seeing Surface RT and Perceptive Pixel and some of our early work really evolve over time has been really, really fun and interesting. And the other day I took a moment to look back at, back to 2012 when Surface really started to appear in the market in various fashions. These were kind of the hot devices on the market. And it's interesting because I took these pictures and showed some of my children who range from 15 to 24 and asked them, like, what is that for on the side of the device? And it was shocking how many of those kind of really important ports and connectivity pieces in 2012 they don't even recognize or don't even know about today. And so we've really come a long way in what was a very heavy device that was mobile, but really didn't have a lot of innovation tied to the future of those devices. And so, when Surface came in, we look from then, we look to now where we are, and we think back about kind of all of the things that Surface has brought to the market in those regards. And our mission within Surface and within Microsoft has never been necessarily we're going to do this on Surface and only Surface, but we're going to lead the way with Surface and then bring our really broad OEM community along with us and kind of pave the way for them to start to adopt some of these. Now, as we've matured as a product and as a family of devices, you are seeing some things that we're doing mostly tied to things like our cloud management and other cloud assets that are specific to Surface. But we never close the door on inviting others within the Windows ecosystem to take advantage of that. Not all of these have been huge successful hits. Take Surface Dial, for example. Super innovative idea. I love the concept of being able to use both hands when I'm interacting with content, but not necessarily something that was designed to be, for us to go sell millions of these around the world. Of course, detachable laptop with book was super important, and it came with that crazy hinge that we call the fulcrum hinge. Studio with its amazing capabilities. I'm actually on a Surface Studio 2 right now talking to you. Our ability to do things like passive cooling architecture, which meant we could remove a fan and create more room for other things within a device in our tablet devices. And if you look at the one with the little red square around it, a rectangle, this is a geek out moment from a technical standpoint, but the idea of taking a hard drive or a storage drive and shrinking it down to the size of literally a quarter, and packaging it in that way so that, again, you can create much more space for things like bigger batteries, LTE antennas, those types of things. And so that's really been our mantra in Surface from an innovation standpoint, is to lead the way with these types of things and essentially create new categories and new industries around that. We're going to talk a little bit, I'm going to show you a little bit here on some things that are more recent that we've been working on that you may not have heard of yet, as they are really brand new, hot off the press. But one is this idea of, I guess both of them center around this idea of artificial intelligence. I wrote a paper a number of years ago on bringing artificial intelligence onto the device and what the opportunity was in doing that. And it's really interesting to see that start to come to fruition now with things like voice clarity, which you'll first see on Surface Laptop Studio. And the other one we're going to talk about is the Surface Hub 2 Smart Camera that has all of that information processing, AI capabilities built into the actual camera itself to offload some of that. So let's take a moment here. I'm going to just show you a quick video to kind of describe what voice clarity is and how, especially in a world of remote kind of hybrid work, it comes into play. And that link isn't working in there, is it? All right, we'll come back to that. So basically, all of our devices come with studio mics. It's basically a mic array. When you combine that with the AI capabilities of voice clarity, you're going to eliminate things like crosstalk, choppiness when two people are trying to talk at the same time, and make the conversation feel more natural and more like an in-person one. Things like, as you see here, laughter, emotion, confidence, all of those things are captured to bring a much bigger essence into your calls. I think you're going to get access to this deck, so you'll be able to click on that link and go see the 60-second video that's there on this. The other one is around noise suppression. Now, we know Teams, for example, does some interesting things around black background blur and some other things with calls. So this would help with those types of situations. Think about the lawnmower. I live in a new development, so there's all kinds of construction activity, and being able to suppress that noise, not just when you're in front of your device, but if you're at other parts of the room or in your space as well. Again, all driven by on-device AI capabilities. Oh, and here we go. I knew I put it in here. Let me see if we can play it, though. we'll skip it anyways. The other one I mentioned is the smart camera for Surface Hub. And really, again, using AI embedded in the Surface smart camera to be able to do things like, again, I'll give you a great example. Surface Hub that you see in this picture here is actually on an angle and designed for people to be standing up, and is kind of upwardly focused. This has the ability to adjust tilt. For example, if you're sitting down and it has the downward look, it can adjust the tilt. It has the ability to do automatic framing. So if you're in a conference room or a multi-person space, it's focused on the people that are there. More people show up to the meeting. It can adjust its field of view to include those people as well. So there's a whole bunch of different things that it can do dynamically to change the experience based on the active elements of any particular meeting. And again, there's a great video on YouTube that talks about that as well. The other one that I will mention as well, I'll leave this as a link that you can go spend some time on, but there's a great article out there on kind of the top 10 ways that Surface shines on Windows 11. And some of the things that we've done way back in March of 2018, our CEO Satya made the decision to bring our engineering groups together for better alignment. And so many of our cloud activities that we do from a modern work or a productivity standpoint, including Windows, is in the same engineering organization as Surface. And so a lot of the development that happens between our operating system and our cloud assets and our devices are done together in a cooperative fashion. And so there's a number of things that you'll see here within Windows 11 to all of the different points that you see on the screen that I invite you to go spend some more time talking about. So that just kind of gives you an idea of the leadership role that we try and take from an industry lens with Surface from an innovation standpoint. And again, that goes all the way back from 2012, and we're still doing many of those things today. The other storyline within this that we want to chat about a little bit here is this idea of, we call it chip to cloud. Chip obviously referencing the hardware elements inside of the device, and having that experience all the way from the device through to the Microsoft cloud, and providing management and security in kind of unique ways through that experience. If we peel back the layers of this and really look at what chip to cloud means, as I mentioned, if we go right to left in this order, cloud obviously is where we do a lot of our productivity work, our management capabilities, our security capabilities through things like Microsoft 365, through Dynamics 365, Azure, those sort of things. Moving then down to the operating system, which hopefully is pretty self-explanatory, and then into the device components. And when I talk to customers about the role that Surface plays in their overall strategy and solution, try and think about it in terms of solution. Surface represents your last mile, essentially, of every one of your users' experiences. You're going to put all this time and effort into building the cloud capabilities and delivery methods, but if you're not delivering that in that last mile in the best way possible, you're really putting those capabilities at risk. And so we talk in terms of firmware and hardware. And I thought the best way to really make this less technical and more impactful is to talk about a couple of the things that we do at Microsoft for our customers as part of this. And in this example, I'll bring together BitLocker from our hardware standpoint, our encryption piece within the hardware components. That could maybe go under operating system as well. We'll talk about our firmware, basically the operating system underneath the operating system of our device. And we'll talk about Windows Update for Business in this example. And so anytime you have a Surface device, we do all of our updating, not just of the Windows components of the device, the actual UEFI or the firmware through Windows Update for Business. And so in this case, you go to Windows Update for Business, or it automatically connects to it. and it's going to do an update of the UEFI as part of its things that it wants to do as part of that. So it's going to reach out to Windows Update for Business. Now, because of the relationship that we have between, again, all the elements of this chip to cloud, this process will automatically suspend BitLocker, which is a requirement to do a UEFI update as part of the process. Once the UEFI is updated, the cloud service, Windows Update for Business, will actually do a re-enablement of BitLocker, and you're on your way. It's super transparent to the user, super transparent to the management folks, because it's automated in that sense. The only way that we can do that is to have that chip-to-cloud relationship between our different properties to be able to do that. Let me give you another example here. Here's one that might be a little more extensive. So we have something called device firmware configuration interface. Again, I'm going to talk in terms of managing the lower levels of the device to be able to say, hey, we are in a very secure environment. For example, we don't want any of our users in this department to have access to cameras or Bluetooth or core components of their system for whatever reason. And so an administrator has the ability to go into Microsoft Endpoint Manager and do management of a Surface UEFI, which is what we talked about before, the firmware, right from within Microsoft Endpoint Manager. And they can do this configuration so that it is assigned to a single device, a group of devices, all devices, really simple to do that. Well, in order to be able to do that, we need to maintain a level of trust in the life of the device. We don't want any bad actors being able to get into those devices or anything else. And so the way that we maintain that chain of trust, if you will, is by deploying those devices using Windows Autopilot. There's a whole secure way of doing that that makes sure that we know that that device is secure and that it hasn't been compromised. Part of that proposition of deploying Windows Autopilot is you can use Windows Hello for biometric authentication, and you can also use conditional access like multi-user or authentication, multi-factor authentication as part of that. Again, super easy, seamless process that automates things, reduces costs, and boosts security for our customers. But I wanted to just give you some really high-level examples of how we bring these different pieces together behind the scenes to show the value of Surface within this chip-to-cloud concept. For those of you that are live inside of Endpoint Manager, this is just the screen that we have embedded within there. I mentioned device firmware configuration interface. Not the greatest name in the world, but it gets you the idea of what we do. And this is where an administrator, as I said, can go in. If you look at specifically the bottom half of this screen, do I want to configure cameras? Do I want to configure microphones, or speakers, or radios? I've been into some secure locations of customers where we've had to turn in our devices or put tape over ports. It's those types of things that we can do kind of on the extreme end of this that we can manage from this. As opposed to the traditional way to do this is the management people go from device to device. They use the same password for each computer's UEFI, and that really is a major security risk. And so that takes a lot of that risk and that manual work away. The other piece from, again, chip to cloud, how does Surface work together with our management and security cloud services to bring value? Well, one is through something new that we have called the Surface Management Portal. It's really just a centralized place to be able to go into the tools that you already know about with Endpoint Manager and get just a general overview of your fleet of Surface devices. In this example, we see there's 32,000 Surface devices. We see the different counts of them based on the different model types. And there's other types of information that is in there and as well that we can get access to really easily as administrators. Device status, in this screen it shows all my devices that are compliant. In this case, there's one of the devices that are non-compliant. I can drill down into that to see what the details are within that. I can also get warranty data. This is a big one from customers, not just warranty information, but self-service around those types of things that they're dealing with. And so being able to see warranty information related to each of the Surface devices. The reason that we can do this within Surface goes back to the fact that we actually build our own UEFI for Surface. It's an open source, open UEFI that other device manufacturers could essentially adopt if and when they're ready to, but it gives us a great deal of flexibility in being able to do some really interesting things, and this is one example of that. And finally, the biggest one for our customers is around support requests. What do I have as open requests? What are the details of that? What's the status? Being able to see that. So open view and take action on these requests as part of that. And so that's one of the newer capabilities that we've introduced to be able to bring an elevated experience of when people ask, why should I invest in Surface? Again, if you use Endpoint Manager, that's a great reason to do that. The next storyline is around sustainable computing. And this is kind of an obviously, it's a very important topic. It's a very hot topic right now in so many aspects of our lives. But it's something that we've really been focused on as a Surface business within Microsoft, but also as a company in general. And if you look, I'm not going to drain this slide other than to say, if you look at our history as a company, we've really had a pretty heavy-duty focus on sustainability. One of the things that I think is really fascinating, if you look above the 2019 label there, we actually have a carbon fee inside of our company. And so whenever we're doing design of products or engineering, every project has a carbon count associated with it. And if you exceed that, for example, then there is a fee, a penalty fee that goes with that. I don't know if I explained that 100% correctly, but you get the idea of that. So we do a lot of that internally. But also you look at some of our lofty goals as we go further into this decade and then the decades to come around carbon neutrality, which is kind of the immediate focus, but then into things like water conservation, waste, and those types of things as well. Now, we, of course, then have brought that down into the Surface business and done some things to really become more planet-friendly, again, with focuses on different parts of our portfolio to do that. In 2020, we made some pretty impressive, vast improvements to our commercial packaging. Gone are the days of the really pretty looking packaging that we use. We've gone to about 95% recyclable materials in all of our packaging that we use within Surface now. And again, moving to 2025, we're really focused on doing some things around eliminating single-use plastics. I'll show you kind of how we are, another way we're targeting that as well. And then within 2030, there's actually a lot of work, not only towards 100% recyclable packaging, but 100% recyclable materials in the devices. If you look at some of our devices now, laptop 4, laptop 3, there's plus 90% recyclable materials that exist in those devices already. And so, again, some very aggressive things that we have. Now, why is this an important conversation around Surface? Well, more and more of our customers are really focusing on how they can reduce their carbon emissions and reduce their carbon footprints. They are implementing their own internal taxes related to carbon, and this is just another way to do that. another element to this conversation is, again, down to the device level. And I've used 3 examples here that really talk about some of the things that we're doing around sustainability that will be important to you as end users. One is around Laptop Go, and you can see 30% post-consumer recycled content within that device itself. Pro 7 Plus, the packaging is 23% lighter. I'm like, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, if we've got lighter packaging, lighter materials, that trickles down into reduced carbon emissions and the other things that you see on the screen as well. And then Laptop 4, you can see here, is certified under the Forest Stewardship Council for its responsible source paper and the stuff that we do there. And so we've got a really big focus on this as our business within Surface, and again, boiling up further into Microsoft all up. To that end, it's work that we continue to do and focus on. Of course, one of the things that we came out most recently with is the Microsoft Ocean Plastic Mouse. It's obviously an accessory to use with your Surface device. The shell is made with 20% plastic waste that's recovered from oceans and waterways, 100% recyclable box that it comes in. And so really trying to do things to support sustainable practices across our business, our device business. And then the other one is a great opportunity to work with Insight on is we have a surface emissions calculator that we and our partners like Insight have access to, where you can actually go in and calculate the emissions and the total emissions from our different devices. And so I just put a few of them on the screen here so you can get kind of an idea of what that looks like and the ability to break those down into the different parts of the life cycle of the device and the creation, supply chain, those sort of things. You can also get this information for other products that are out there, and you'll be amazed to see kind of how our devices stack up against other modern devices that are in the market. And it's a really important conversation that we're having with lots of our customers now, again, around reducing carbon and the carbon footprint. And that's really the place that we're starting from, again, is focusing on the carbon element, but moving into other types. The last part of this piece of the conversation centers around the release of, or the general availability of, the Microsoft Cloud for Sustainability. So if you as a customer are really serious about this from an enterprise or commercial standpoint, the Microsoft Cloud for Sustainability is really one of the ways that you can start to bring some structure and organization around the data that you can collect and correlate and evaluate for your sustainability journey. So I wanted to bring that into this part of this conversation as well, that we are continuing to do things for not only ourselves, but our customers as well in trying to manage sustainability. The next vignette is around accessibility. And again, this is a really important topic, maybe not one that has been mainstream for a lot of our customers historically, but with the challenges of working remotely as well as kind of that hybrid sense, it really creates additional challenges. And so accessibility in action is another way that we from Surface look at how we bring value into the things that we do with our customers and our end users. And so the adaptive Surface Adaptive Kit is really one of the easiest ways for you as customers and users to make our devices more accessible, more user-friendly. And it's really through I had a great picture here of a kit that contains some 4 different things that users can use to help them in their everyday use with their Surface devices. And if we dive into these, I'll just cover these four kind of at a high level as we talk through this. One is this idea of these three-dimensional bump labels. These are really just, the idea is to have these distinctive labels to help people quickly identify or locate things like different keys and ports and those other things. If you look at the device, the Surface laptop that's depicted in the picture, you can see, for example, on the keys where different symbols have been placed for navigation to often used keys like the Enter key or the Shift key, caps lock, function, those types of things. So it allows users to use these three-dimensional labels as a way to find where they're going. The keycap labels are another one that we have. Again, maybe I mixed those two up right there, but you get the idea again for highlighting keys and touch and so on and so forth. The opener support is an interesting one. We have two different styles that we've introduced here because opening a laptop, for example, with one hand is a lot different than opening a tablet with a kickstand. And so we've developed a couple of different opener support products with different tabs on them. The one that's depicted in the picture on the label on the bottom is you can attach a lanyard to it, but again, designed to help with things that we take for granted, like opening the device, the lid or the kickstand of the devices. And then the last one is around port indicators. And these, I think, are actually super cool in the fact that there are two elements to this. One is you put the smaller one, these are the multicolored ones in the bottom left. You put the smaller ones affixed to where a particular port is on the device, and then the longer one attaches to the cord for that device. And a user, for example, that is visually impaired can feel for the different raised bumps or patterns that are on those cords and match it to where it is on the device. So again, just some very simple things that we are working on to do that. I'm not going to go deeper into these ones other than to say these are the three-dimensional bump ones. Again, I said buttons, but also keys, ports, in this case, Surface headphones, and some of the capabilities that you could do with that. These are the keycap labels. These are the ones that I was describing where you have different patterns or shapes to depict keys that you're using. I mentioned the port labels. And you get a little close-up there. And then, of course, the opener support. This picture here is depicting the use with a keyboard or a device that has a kickstand on it, and the ability, again, to attach a lanyard to make that process even easier than trying to dig in behind and prop that open. The other thing that I'll finish with here on this storyline or conversation is this fall we are within Microsoft introducing a whole new ecosystem of adaptive accessories. And the idea here is to give our user community the ability to do some really interesting things around configuring and 3D printing your own customizable mouse or keyboard inputs, shortcuts, really allowing allowing accessibility at a whole new level where people can customize the types of things that they need to be able to do their work and their play and their other types of things that they do on Surface. And so that is a really creative way to come at this from an accessory standpoint. Again, configuring 3D printing and the whole bit to be able to kind of customize these as people see fit. So keep an eye out for that one. The final one that I'm going to land on here from a vignette standpoint is around Surface in an industry sense. Almost everything that we've talked about today has been, hey, I need a new device as a user. I'm going to replace my old device with this Surface, modern Surface device. But I actually represent within Microsoft US something called the Solution Factory, and our whole focus is around this idea of how can we use Surface in kind of differentiated ways within an industry lens. And our criteria for doing that is we usually are connected to some Microsoft cloud capability in order to do that. And one of the big things is, in order for us to come to market with these solutions, the solution itself has to use Surface in some sort of exclusive or unique way to create a business outcome. And so I thought I'd show you some examples of how we do that today. And it's interesting when we look at a bunch of the technical capabilities of Surface, when you put an industry lens on it, those change dramatically. For example, some of the work we do with Teladoc Health is they chose Surface. One of the reasons they chose Surface for their telehealth units is that it's a lower cost device than the devices typically found in that industry. In some other cases where we're using the Surface device for digital signage or patient monitoring, we can use things like Windows Autopilot to self-deploy and configure these devices without anyone having to do that manually standing in front of the device. When we talk about residual value of the devices and being able to get the value out of your Surface device in kind of years 3 and years 4, we have some, really higher level residual value that makes it financially worthwhile. And so there's a whole bunch of things that, when you look at Surface in a typical space, you go, yeah, that's interesting. But when you put it into an industry lens, it gives it a whole new context for the things that we built into the devices. So let me give you just a couple of examples of how we are, some of the things that we're working on from an industry standpoint. And one is some work we're doing with one of our customers that makes these really giant industrial printers. And if you can imagine one of these, when it goes down, it is costing the company that's using that literally thousands of dollars for every hour or minute that those are down. And so we are working with one of our development partners on creating a solution on Surface Duo, the actual Surface Duo 2 device that creates a mixed reality digital twin that on one side of the screen, you will be able to essentially overlay that giant device that you're doing work on with a digital twin of that. And we can superimpose where parts or pieces are that need to be replaced. We can invoke tutorials as part of that as to what you need to do to remove that piece. And again, on the other side, you can run a Teams call connected to a remote expert and some of those sort of things. So that's one of the really unique things we're doing from a Surface standpoint that takes us out of the realm of everyday knowledge worker use and into an industry. Another one is a digital workspace application that we built initially for Surface Hub, but now is available on all Surface devices. But the idea is, if you have business leaders, and where it started was you business leaders that are working from home, trying to manage their businesses, hunched over these 14-inch laptops. So let's put together something that is easily accessible as a dashboard where you can not only see your different KPIs and the information that you need, but you can interact with it, expand and contrast a window. You can use pen, you can use touch, you can do a Teams call from within this, but essentially a digital workspace that travels with you and is cloud connected for some higher level productivity. I mentioned Teladoc Health is one of our partners that we work really closely with. What you see here depicted is one of their Teladoc Health mini devices. It's a telehealth device. In this example, the family is in a clinic, but the specialist that they're talking to is in a remote facility. What drives that in the heart of that is a Surface Pro device and is used to do patient interaction. This actually connects with their virtual care platform inside of Teams. And so a clinician can go into Teams, do their Teams regular stuff, go into patient records within Teams through the integration with Teladoc, and then control and connect to one of these devices remotely for telehealth visit. And finally, some of the work we did with the Georgia Office of the State Treasurer related to the early days of hybrid work is we brought together Azure Virtual Desktop, and now today Windows 365 is an option, along with Surface devices for a kind of a hybrid environment of virtual desktop capabilities with some of our on-device capabilities that we have to create kind of a higher level experience for users in that sense. And so that's really, I've got some other examples in here that you can take a look at as part of this, but that's really kind of, again, at a super high level. I wanted to give you the idea of some of the things that we had the ability to do within Surface to bring additional value and kind of answer that question around, what is the value of Surface? How is it unique? And again, we put it into some different contexts and scenarios and use cases for you to be able to see that. Hopefully that was helpful and gave you at least enough information to tweak your interest in one or several of these different areas where you can work with Insight as one of our premier partners and go a little deeper into that. So I believe that we have, I'll pause here to see if we have any questions from our monitoring folks. If we have any questions, now would be a good time to dive into those. Otherwise, I will hand it back for a wrap. I think we have a couple of poll questions to wrap this up as well. But again, my name is Robert Henry. It's been a pleasure spending some time with you today, and hopefully gave you some things to take away from a Surface value standpoint. All right, there are no further questions in the chat. So I am going to wrap, and thank you for your time. Again, for more information, go to insight.com, reach out to your Insight folks, and you can go a little deeper from there. Thanks again. Have a great day.